This is Dan from Ramblin' Ambition, and we're about to finish off our subfloor. If this is something you're interested in, please stick around for the video. If you're a subscriber, thanks for coming back. If you haven't subscribed yet, we have a 2019 Sprinter van 170 that we're converting into a tiny home on wheels. So please follow us and check out our progress as we kind of go through the build series. So we went to the hardware store and picked up some 23 30 seconds sheathing, which is a little less than 3/4 but a little bit more than half, just for the structural rigidity. It's got 5 plies to it. So what we've done is we've laid it out, and we have the fortunate side of having the factory floor. It's kind of folded up right now, but we're going to use it as a template. So hopefully we'll oversize it just a little bit since the floor has been lifted up, and we'll lay it out, and we'll put a trace down and see where we go. So in our last couple videos, we have put the purlins down, put the polyiso floor insulation down with a rubberized non-skid coating underneath for sound deadening and thermal break. We installed some LED headlights from Last Fit, and the last video we just did was our install of our draw tight hitch for the back of the van. So progress a little bit at a time. Our goal is to tackle the subfloor, get it installed, and from there we will start on the 2 roof fans, which we've already built the boxes for, or at least the internal support frame for. We got a video coming out on that for you guys. So cool stuff coming, just a little bit at a time. So let's get this factory floor down and see what it looks like. All right, so our pattern is drawn out just like the factory floor, and we'll go ahead and trim these out. Now, these, I drew them just because I'm going to utilize the factory hold down points to just secure the floor, and I guess I'm worried about crash ratings and stuff like that, and I know the floor is going to be secure, but I feel better if we go through. I actually bolt the floor down utilizing some of the factory mounting points just for safety's sake. They're going to be hidden behind cabinets or different systems, so you're not going to see them anyway, so it's not going to affect the finished floor. So I think it'll work out pretty good. The first piece cut. Let's see how we did. Fits pretty good. We got a nice gap on the edges so that we don't have squeaks as it's rubbing up against body panels. We'll fill that with some foam at some point. So far so good. Let's cut that second piece out. that's 2 for 2. Let's see if we can't get the third one cut. All right, well, we got it in. So the cuts ended up being right where we needed them to be. The factory floor was a perfect template for what we needed to do. So really happy with how it turned out, you know. So the next steps from here are we got to paint and prime the bottom of the floor to be able to go down just as an added moisture barrier, especially the edges, and then we'll glue everything down and screw it down to the purlins, and then we'll drop a couple bolts into the factory hardware areas and get the floor secured for good. So that'll be what's up next. All right, it's another day, and today our goal is to get the plywood prepped to be able to put down permanently. So we have to mark the holes that we're going to utilize to fix the floor down to the body using the existing holes that are in the actual floor itself that came from the factory. We got to drill the pocket holes to affix the pieces together just for an extra added piece. We got to paint the undersides to seal it from moisture with the mold block and Zinsser 123 that we've been using, and then glue everything down. So it should be a full day of work. All right, so all we did was we took some of the frame bolts that came with us. We cut the heads off of it and made a little point, and then we took an M8 tap and ran that down through those holes so that we could easily screw that in. And what that's going to do for us is it's going to allow us to put the piece of plywood down, get it where we want it, and then just kind of tap the area where we put the bolts in, and that'll tell us exactly where we need to drill the holes so everything lines up. So it should work pretty smooth. All right, we're just going to tap on the areas that we know where the bolt heads are, and that should give us a template of where to drill. All right, so you can see we have dots. I put some paint right in the inside so you guys can see, but it gives us a perfect mark to drill so we know that our holes are going to be accurate. All right, we got the bottom of it coated and the edges. Holes are drilled where they need to be. Everything's been pre-fit to make sure it goes where it needs to be. And we're getting ready to set the first piece in the van. All right, so we have 2 of the 4 pieces down and bolted down right now, and we're working on the third. And one thing that I do just to create a good seam is we're putting pocket holes just to connect the pieces of plywood together. So this is going to be the third piece that's going to start to come into the wheel well. So you can see here that we have the bolts that go into the frame, and then here's an example of the pocket screws, and then we have the other screws set down too. So It just makes for a nice, secure floor. All right, so this is just a simple jig made by Craig. It's the same kind of pocket hole system we're going to use to make all of our cabinets. It uses a special drill, and that tip is what creates the small pocket in the wood, and the collar is what sets the depth. And so it's set right now for 3/4 inch plywood, which is what we're using. And then it uses a special screw with a nice head which catches everything. It goes down in the pocket like that and comes out. And then just like that. So it joins the stuff really nicely. The nice thing about the pocket holes is it creates a flat seamless fastener that you can still create a glue joint with, and it's really strong once it's put together. And we'll be using that, like I said, for the rest of the floor, as well as the cabinets that we'll be making. And then I make a resin and sawdust kind of mix that we'll fill all the holes with, so that it's a nice flat seamless kind of look, if you will. So polyester resin with some hardener and then some actual sawdust from the wood that we've been cutting up, and it makes a perfect filler. We use the construction adhesive. I like the Loctite 357, but for some reason there's a shortage of it at the hardware store. So I used the liquid nails, and what we did was we just put some adhesive along the purlins that we put down and on top of the insulation. Now the insulation, we also used it underneath it to glue it down to the ribs, and then we scribed a line. We set 1.5 inch self-drilling wood screws into the purlins through the plywood, and then we used the 4 bolts, and I think it worked out pretty good. So all for a secure floor to the vehicle, especially in case we get into an accident. I don't want that floor to move at all. So at least we have a nice strong foundation. So we just got that last piece to kind of make up, and I'm reconfiguring it because I didn't like how we kind of set it up. So we're going to do it individually, a little bit at a time. All right, so we are finally done with the floor. It took us quite a while, working basically on the weekends and nights that the weather cooperated, but we finally got all the polyiso insulation board glued down, all of the plywood cut to fit, and then everything in the van and screwed down. So the only thing we have left are, I did leave a gap around the entire outside perimeter of the floor, and we're going to take some basically like a foam insulation tube that a lot of people use for windows, and kind of stuff that around the creases just to close that gap up, but also to allow the floor to move. But I don't want to seal it tight with sealant or anything else like that. This is just to trap stuff so that we can vacuum around the edges if we need to.
Henry worked really hard on this project.
So Henry worked really hard on this project. So our next steps moving forward are the Max Air fans. They came in, and so we have all of the stuff that we need to put it together, the sealant, the roof seal that we ordered off of eBay for each one of the fans in the front and the rear specific locations. And so I think this weekend we got good weather, and we're going to try and install them.
Big cuts happening.
Big cuts happening in the roof. So
putting down the floor, we kind of, I think, finalized what our floor plan might be.
Yeah.
Different direction we want to go.
So we kind of changed some things, and we'll go over the layout in another video. But we also kind of laid out where our electrical lines are. So I think that once we get the vent fans in and finish the rest of the things that come through the vehicle, we'll start with our electrical plan, and we'll kind of diagram not only the layout of the van but where we're going to terminate all the wires, because that all has to be done first before we do anything else.
So small steps, but big steps.
Yeah. So this is
Emily
and Dan from Rambling Ambition.
And Henry.
Let's not forget Henry. And
this is all for him.
We'll see you next video.
All for you guys.